Hi there and good morning. I'm just going to start the 2021 IRM regional event, and for those still joining, they can catch up so that we don't delay anything. Thank you for spending your time this morning. What we will be doing, if I can get to work. So what we're going to be talking about today is looking at the last of basically sharing knowledge and awareness of other things and other areas that kind of supplement risk management and the Institute of Risk Management's learning and reference. Today, we're recording the session so that we can make it available to people on the IRM webpage. Therefore, if there is any objections to that, please let me know via the chat, which will be on your kind of toolbar. That's the webinar's toolbar today, and we'll stop that. Also, the rules, just so that we don't interrupt with it being virtual, we don't interrupt and derail the presentations, is that if there are any questions as the guests present, if you could please put your questions in the chat area. I will keep an eye on that and I will ask as I see the questions coming in at relevant points, or alternatively at the end of each speaker's presentation. So today, the two presentations we have are from the Institute of Value Management and the Institute of Operational Risk. The theme is collaboration as knowledge sharing and just becoming aware of what's there and available for us seems to be a great way to go, especially when we're in virtual circumstances at the moment. Today, the presentations, each of the guest speakers will talk about their area of specialist group, what that area recent activities are, and may share a little bit of their experience and wealth of knowledge in those particular fields. So at 9:35, I'll hand over to Julie Warner, who is the chair of the Value Management Institute and also the head of value decisions in the UK. At 10:15, I will hand over to Bill Stirling, who is the chair for the Institute of Operational Risk and also is a leader in the technology risk and operational resilience at Refinitiv. The close is expected at 11 o'clock today, and if there is any outstanding questions that are still left, I will put them up on the IRM regional webpage for you. So I'm just going to hand you over now to Julie Warner.
Right, good morning everybody. Hopefully can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Julie.
Excellent, excellent. I don't know if Donna noticed, but the internet threw me out a few minutes ago. So I had to quickly log on back into it. So I'm hoping there's no more technical glitches. So I'm here today to talk to you about value management and the Institute of Value Management. I'm hoping you can see the slide deck, can you, in front of you?
Yes.
You're lucky I can't, Donna, but okay.
Can you have you is it down in the what can you see?
No, I'm fine. So
okay, no problem.
Just to go back up then. So yeah, so I'm actually chair of the Institute of Value Management, an organisation I'm very passionate about. Very grateful to Donna for asking me to speak today. So I'd like to share some information about the Institute of Value Management, its core principles, aims, its training and certification across the UK and wider into Europe. I'm then going to share some experience of how I've delivered value management in the rail industry on investment projects, and then going to touch on how risk and value management are very much aligned, in my view, in order to add maximum benefit to project delivery. Okay, I'm just trying to make, yeah, sorry about those few technical glitches. So the first bit, the Institute of Value Management, its aims, core principles, training and certification. There's quite a bit on this slide, and I know Donna will make sure you get the slide pack afterwards, but I'm going to run through some of this. So our key aims: to ensure that we enhance performance and delivery of value by ensuring value management is strengthened across all sectors of the UK economy. And that includes such sectors as transport, construction, finance, banking, health, and social housing. So a number of sectors across the UK economy. To demonstrate the value of value management across those sectors in order to benefit the UK economy as a whole, to promote value management qualifications, especially the professional in value management qualification, to organisations, institutes and HM government and educational institutes. Our aim is that this is seen as a professional qualification and recognised not only in the UK but throughout Europe and wider. To increase our membership of IVM by at least our growth forecasts, and also that we have active participation in each of our regions. So we've got a number of regions, Southeast region, and we've got active branches down in the London area. A little bit difficult with COVID at the moment, so we need to set up some webinars and get things reinvigorated back online. We've got a Scottish branch, we've got a North East branch, and we've got a Wales and Western branch. To be able to have more effective communication with our members and potential members. So we're out there trying to connect with members and certainly our corporate members to ensure that value management is embedded within their organisations and they know they can come to us for any advice that they may need. And also to be a leading member of Value for Europe, which is our governing body in terms of value management. In terms of our competence, our core principles, what we want to do is develop world-class competence to ensure we have sustainable value. We are looking to promote value management, training, standards and certification, and the IVM is key in progressing that in line with Value for Europe. We're also keen to ensure that we raise the awareness of what value management is as a key element of a management system moving forward. And a lot of our members, our executive team, are actively involved working with the British Standards Institute to ensure that standards are enhanced. We have, over the last few years, rewritten the value management standard and contributed to other standards throughout Europe and worldwide. And a big aim of ours is to work collaboratively with other bodies within the UK, European countries and wider across the world. And today is one example of how we're doing that, working jointly with the IRM. So we have 4 key principles in terms of value management, which is founded on the concept of value and function-oriented thinking. The 4 key principles are around strengthening value, ensuring that value is aligned with an organisation and its value culture to ensure its goals are developed and there is a common vision moving forward in terms of value management. For us, an effective value orientation requires that everyone in the organisation from the top to bottom understand what drives value for that organisation. As I said earlier, a key element of value management is the function thinking. An effective focus on function is achieved through the structured process of undertaking robust function analysis, which identifies, clarifies, agrees, and prioritises what needs to be done in order for a product, a project, a programme, a portfolio, some goods or services to achieve success in terms of performance terms. So very much applying function thinking. We want to apply a structured, holistic approach. So work with organisations to ensure they apply a structured, holistic approach throughout the organisation, and that their value management approach is developed to suit the organisation and also the level and nature of the subject under consideration. So it's a sort of birth to grave concept so right across our organisations, and setting the structure in place to make that happen. We're also looking to help organisations manage complexity and risk and uncertainty. So certainly for me, I see a big tie-in with risk management, very much aligned with what we do in value management. So ensuring that we manage complexity and uncertainty in an efficient way, and that the organisation understands not only the value it's looking to derive, but those impacts that can occur from risk that could impact negatively, and also maybe some of those impacts that could occur from an opportunity perspective to impact positively. And I'm sure as risk experts, most of you will know, risk assessment should take into account not just the current risk exposure, but the residual risk, which might need to be tolerated in moving forward. So in terms of Value for Europe and its training and certification system, there are 3 levels of qualification. A qualified value analyst is someone who has a good understanding of the principles of value management and is able to apply them effectively in a day-to-day manner. They can contribute as part of a member to a value management study, and they can fully engage and share their knowledge within that study. The qualification in itself does not imply any competence to design or lead a value study, but it's almost the first step on that rung in order to get value management qualifications. A professional in value management, on the other hand, is someone who can fully design and lead a value study or a number of studies of at least moderate complexity in a familiar business organisation or environment. So maybe working in their own company, whether that be transport or construction or another sector. They have the basic understanding to be able to apply the capability in more diverse situations and undertake a range of value management studies. Highly experienced PVMs may address issues with a high level of complexity across different business sectors. So there are some of our members that just work within one organisation and deliver value management within that organisation. There are others that work across a cross-sector of organisations. And I'll show you a diagram in a few minutes that'll sort of demonstrate the sort of structure in moving through that qualification. A trainer in value management, on the other hand, is someone who has considerable experience in the application of VM, and to be able to design and deliver training courses and mentor individuals moving forward to enhance their individual capability. All of the above qualifications are recognised in the UK and Europe, and indeed wider. Some countries like a conversion, such as America, who has a conversion program from going from one qualification such as a PVM to their qualifications, but by and large they are very compatible. Okay, so here I've got the Value for Europe certification and training system, just shown in a diagrammatic form. So at the bottom end, we've got what we call our Value Management Module 1, Principles and Practice. So it's very much an awareness, getting to grips with some of the principles, the practices of what is value management, practicing some of the tools and techniques. It's a 3-day session. It can either be held over 3 consecutive days or broken up into a number of days. And currently with COVID at the moment, I think we have 1 or 2 organisations in the UK that are looking to take this training online. By and large, before this, most of the delivery of our training courses was in face-to-face contact. So either 3 days or broken up. Following that, then there is an opportunity to sit a qualified value analyst test at the end of the training, and if individuals are successful and pass that training, they can then apply to the Institute of Value Management to be recognised as a qualified value analyst. Beyond that, by participating in 2 complete value studies and undertaking some personal development, individuals can move on to what we call Value Management Module 2, much more focused on facilitation, enhancing skills, and also talking about being a study leader how do you set up a value management study and run that study? In terms of moving that forward further, we have our final module, which is a VM3 module, which is looking at strategy and operations and moving that forward very much in terms of designing not only the studies themselves, but working with organisations to truly embed value management as part of their drumbeat. Once individuals have completed all that training, and I have to say, you don't have to complete every bit of training. Individuals could just choose to do VM1 module and come out as a qualified value analyst. But for me, ideally, if individuals could progress, I think the optimum would be to go forward and submit to be a professional in value management. To do so, you need to have completed and passed all these relevant courses, and also submit a dossier of evidence and be interviewed with a panel. Based on my own experience, I would say realistically, probably 1 to 2 years. It depends how focused you are on progressing that training. But I think from recollection, it took me 2 years from doing the first VM course and thinking, wow, I really like this, to going on and doing more advanced training and getting more experience as I went along the way, to then be able to really embed and to be able to apply for the professional in value management. And beyond that, even further, there is training to become a trainer in value management. If anybody wants to know more detail, there is more on the IVM website, and the link is as below and will be in the material afterwards, or indeed drop me an email afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit now about value management delivery in the rail industry. And I'm going to start with something a little bit fun and a little bit different. And you'll probably think, how does that relate to the rail industry? So for me, what is value? Well, I did a bit of research a couple of years ago, and I worked out that actually there was over 60 plus different types of cans of baked beans, and a whole range of different companies that made these. Some were low in sugar, low in salt, some were organic, some were flavoured by different means, such as the Heinz baked beans ones. Some had other additives, such as small sausages, etc. In terms of the sizes and the shape of these, some were in small cans, easy for one person to use, some were in big catering cans, and nowadays we even have the recycled ones that we can use and reseal. So what basic needs are these baked beans fulfilling? Well, to me, a number of things. If you look at it from the very core requirements, then I guess the first one would be it's around sustaining life. So if we're talking in terms of needs and wants and function thinking, it's also about optimizing nutrition. There's some goodness within baked beans. Satisfied taste buds, that might be somebody's needs. Fulfilling hunger or providing a quick meal. So a range of needs that these particular baked beans do fill. And how do I turn this into what value management is about? Well, value achievement and the benefits to be realised often depends on what our stakeholders' needs and wants are. So in the baked bean world, if you are someone who eats organic food, then you're going to want something that's organic. If you focus on the catering industry, you're going to want something that's more adaptable and you can share on a bigger scale. It might also depend on budget you've got available. You know, you might be forced to buy, for whatever reason, some of these value type baked beans, and some of them are actually nice, I'm told. So it might depend on your budget. It might depend on just satisfying the pure hunger that you need and providing the nutrition. And I've gone on to the third bullet point last, because I want to demonstrate this with the rail projects as well that I'm going to talk you through. It may be that there's a prestige factor, that you might go to the supermarket and for you the only one you could possibly buy is Heinz baked beans or another top brand, Marks and Spencer's, whatever that might be. And certainly when we turn that into our project delivery, prestige can often play a part. So I've probably spent enough time on baked beans by now. I'm just going to check because I can't see individuals, but Donna will reassure me, I'm sure. Can you still hear me?
Sure can.
Excellent, right. That's just me not trusting the technology. So what is value management to me? Well, it's around satisfaction of needs over the consumption of resources. And often that consumption of resources is around cost. So I'm very much a Yorkshire girl. So getting what you need, what you're prepared, what you actually need for what you're prepared to part with in terms of money. And there's some value definitions over on the right there. A measure of how well a project, product, and an organisation satisfied its stakeholders versus the resources to be consumed. Value management is not something I can do on my own. I need a number of individuals, and it needs to be held with a structured, very much a team-based approach to identify what the functional requirements of a project, a portfolio, a programme, a product, whatever that might be, to move that project forward, and the aims being to achieve optimum functional outputs while aligning cost, quality and safety. And a little quote that I've added in there: human mind is often solution orientated, solutions often determined before the problem is defined. Value management helps us to strip that out and go back to truly defining what our problems are and our projects to develop moving forward, before we dive into solution mode. So the project that I'm going to talk about is a project that I managed from inception right through to delivery in terms of its value management and risk management. So it's called the Great Northern Great Eastern Joint Line Improvement Project. It was a £268 million project. The aims of the project were to free up capacity and to ensure the equivalent journey time was still achieved. So freeing up capacity on the East Coast Main Line, one of our core passenger routes in the UK, to enable passenger trains to be able to run and take freight services off that East Coast Main Line. And those freight services, by their very nature, run at a slower pace than passenger trains. And those freight services were given their own route called the GNGE route. In terms of the assets themselves, there are approximately 86 route miles running right down in the south area from Warrington Junction, and this is the GNGE joint line, so it does go quite a way around the houses a little bit and right up to Doncaster. Because of the route, it was an older route, it had less maintenance, less investment over the years. There was an awful lot of infrastructure that had to be worked on and developed. So there you can see some figures here: 112 underbridges, a significant number of those had issues, 84 overbridges, again a significant number with issues, and 225 culverts. There were also a large number of level crossings on the route. And there was a large number of permanent way, so re-railing, re-sleepering, point ends, crossover, double junction works to be undertaken. So a huge and complex project to take forward. And while the works were being undertaken, then other services that used that route prior to the works had to be diverted elsewhere. So it was quite complex to actually manage. So how did we do it in terms of value management? There was a large range of multi-stakeholder groups and very much budget and programme constraints. As I said, 268 million. When I started on the project, they had a 5-year programme to be achieved, which was quite optimistic. And as you can see from the previous slide, a lot of geographical constraints across the 86 route miles. A wide range of neighbours and parties to consult, ranging from local council holders, interest groups, including Ramblers Association, horse organisations, a whole range of them. I have to add, while I was doing this role as Principal Risk and Value Manager, prior to that I'd taken a year out to be a sponsor working on the same project, and I'd had to go out and meet a number of these neighbours and stakeholders, multi-parties, to consult on the works that were being undertaken. And if you've ever had to do that and then get consensus on what the needs are of this particular route and how we factor in what our neighbours and all those multi-stakeholder parties needs are, it's very difficult to achieve. So how do we do it? Well, we held a range of value and risk interventions. Started very much at conception stage, looking at output definition, working out what our critical success factors were, what were our stakeholders' needs, so doing a lot of stakeholder analysis. We undertook function analysis, and I'll show you an example in a few minutes. So what were the true needs, what were the functions that we needed to identify, and at the same time, what were the risks at that very early stage, and we were looking at high-level risks at the output definition stage. We then moved into optioneering and filtering and selecting the right options to take forward. We didn't do it in one hit, one workshop. We had to do it over a number of interventions over, I would say, a year. And you know, breaking the elements of work up into discrete sections and working through and looking at some of the constraints, what options were available, how did they tie in with what the stakeholder needs were, and getting consensus on how we move forward on that option selection. At the same time as doing that, we were also aligning and doing value engineering. So looking to drive out efficiencies or over engineering. So this was not just about cutting costs. Indeed, it wasn't about cutting costs at all, sorry. It was about enhancing efficiency. How can we make it better? Is there something we can put in now that would save us money in the future in terms of the rail network? And I'll talk about some of that a little bit later on. As we were doing this, we also did a very much an iterative process in terms of lessons learned. So partway through the optioneering process, we were doing lessons learned, what went well, successes, and what didn't go well, so some of the issues and problems, and doing a bit of a deep dive root cause analysis on why they had occurred, how we could rectify them, how we had achieved success, and how we could feed that back into other future phases of the scheme that we were progressing. Aligned with this, we were doing a fair bit of quantitative schedule risk analysis, looking at the schedule, the time, how likely we were to achieve and deliver the project on time, and also some quantitative cost analysis, looking at how much this would cost and ensuring we had enough exposure value and contingency to take forward. And as I said, at each of these stages, they were very much interlinked. So output definition, we did some risk. Optioneering, we often did some risk assessment. I remember on one occasion we had two options that were still on the table, and we risk assessed both options to give us a view from a value perspective, which was the best option, and then feeding in the risk factor that could only optimize our value decisions being made. That's a little bit about how we did it. So stakeholder importance for us was imperative. So we did a lot of stakeholder analysis. We ensured we knew who all those stakeholders were, and there was a huge number of them. So working out who the stakeholders are and who are most critical to the success of the project. Who are those that we need to buy in and get their buy-in and engagement with the project, and who are those that maybe we just need to consult and keep informed throughout the life of the project. It's very much a multidisciplinary group of stakeholders with a wide range of knowledge, and they included both internal and external. So you can see from some of the examples I've shown here, included important organisations such as the Department for Transport, our freight, our train operating companies, because obviously they needed to agree on this alternative route. It included the likes of the councils, and with 86 route miles, there were quite a lot of councils to consult with, highways authorities, landowners, neighbours. Some of them we were going to access their land to undertake the works, and also working with our contractors and suppliers. The contract was very much a partnership, alliance-based contract, so we had to ensure that those contractors were working very closely and that we're all aligned and embedded to ensure the success of the project. And also our internal organisation, so working with engineers, commercial, project management, planning, cost engineers, and a range of individuals across construction. The main aim for our stakeholders was to make sure we aligned all their functional needs. What were the core functional needs that the key stakeholders needed, and we had to address those and make sure they were aligned. If we didn't do that, then we wouldn't have been able to deliver success and we wouldn't have got their stakeholder buy-in. Throughout this, we managed to forge that closer working relationships. I remember one of the early risk and VM workshops that I was involved with in the Alliance team, and I had Alliance partners sat there, and it's sort of passing the buck and avoiding taking responsibility and sort of saying, that's not me, that should be Network Rail who does that. And getting that concept across, that actually in an Alliance contract, we're all here. We're all here and we all own it jointly for the success of the project was quite key. Some of the tools and techniques that we adopted. So I said we did stakeholder analysis, deep dives into needs and wants, exploring what success would look like and the benefits to be arrived, and also exploring and analysing the needs and wants of our various stakeholders and the importance of our various stakeholders' needs and wants. We did do some function analysis, so I've got a very high level function diagram there. I know you can't read that, but looking right from what is the overall driving objective, what are our primary functions and our secondary functions, and beyond that tertiary. And for anyone that knows value management, asking how are we going to achieve these functions, and in reverse, why are we doing these in order to achieve the primary functions. We also did quite a bit of value engineering. That's a snippet from one of the VE exercises that I facilitated, and for this particular one we worked through it, splitting up the route into sections. Some of the key successes. We had a successful multi-party alliance set up and maintained throughout the delivery of the study and the project. Operating expenditure savings were achieved. We managed to realise value efficiencies, and one of the biggest ones that we moved forward with, one of the operating expenditure savings, was around signalling savings, because a lot of the route was remote signalled from a large control centre. And historically we've had a lot of small signal boxes with a man in a box managing and signalling trains across a section, whereas in future this is all done remotely. The Alliance delivered sustainability and they managed to achieve sequel. The Alliance was successfully drawn together. It had previously been a number of discrete contracting routes. We did successfully deliver the tonnage, the gauge, the capacity, the journey time improvements. So what does that mean? In effect, the freight trains got their diversionary route, but they got that with an equivalent journey time than what they would have had on the then shorter East Coast Main Line. We managed to hand back final commissioning to all our ORR, Department for Transport, milestone timescales, and a significant volume of those multidisciplinary works were delivered. And we also introduced the new technology in being able to remotely control some of these level crossings, and one particular type of level crossing infrastructure, which was the first that had been successfully rolled out. In terms of benefit, East Coast Main Line enhanced capacity, freight train capacity maintained, and in turn benefits to the travelling public. The OPEX savings were realised, operational expenditure was delivered to a very high standards, and I said earlier, handed back to the ORR DFT milestones. But in terms of value management, what did it leave? Well, it left a legacy of learning. Certainly at the end, we did some lessons learned to wrap up all that knowledge and all that learning and to share it across other projects within the rail industry. Okay, I can see there's probably a few questions flashing. I don't know from Donna, are there any that I need to interject on right now?
Yes, so I think there's two that's came through, and I think they probably are very relevant at this point. So the first one was, I think you've been talking about it, just in case there's anything you'd like to elaborate on. But the question is, for the East Coast project, how are the benefits of value approach measured? So you talked about the benefits there, but is there anything else that you would like to add on that?
Well, in terms of journey time, and so I talked about the journey time, but also in terms of customer satisfaction. So not only did I work on GNG, but I worked on other East Coast mainline projects such as Peterborough Station, and the early work on King's Cross re-signalling realignment. And part of that is around ensuring that we listen to what our stakeholders are saying, in particular what our customers are saying, and feed that back in. So listening to our customers, listening to our stakeholders, so not just looking from a monetary perspective, but in terms of a satisfaction perspective. And you know, what has that done in terms of the rail deliveries, reputation outside in industry? So a number of factors, much wider than just, you know, driving out value and efficiencies. Does that help?
Yep. The other question we have is, what is the difference between a need and a want? So really back to the basic. And then, if all the needs are delivered within the budget, can the client consider instructing some of the wants to be delivered?
Absolutely, absolutely. So to me, the needs, those things that a project must have in order for it to be successful. So without that, success wouldn't be realised. And certainly when I got into some of the early stakeholder workshops with the various freight and train operating companies, you can imagine some of those stakeholders, they were stating that their needs were 6-10-fold maybe. And actually, when we streamed it back and looked at it and shared that, and we weren't just doing that on our own, there were other stakeholders that were involved in that. Actually, some of them weren't core needs. They weren't the basic needs that had to be aligned. Some of them were, in my view, the nice to haves. So the needs, those things that must be delivered in order to have success, and the wants, maybe some of those nice to haves. Yes, we did manage to do some of the wants along the way, and some of those were quite easy to achieve. Some of them wouldn't have been very easy to achieve or deliverable. So that's the difference between the needs and wants. And yes, I guess you could say if somebody had come forward with additional funding, then we might have been able to add some more of those wants. Okay.
Brilliant. I think the other one, so I'll ask at the end, Julie, if that's okay.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to move on, conscious of time. How risk and value management are aligned to achieve maximum benefit to project delivery. Well, a lot of you are risk experts, so I guess this is a bit like teaching you to suck eggs, but just a refresh on what risk management is. So to me, it's twofold. It's around the threats and the opportunities. So the threats, what are the uncertain events or set of circumstances that, if they occur, could have an adverse effect on the achievement of the project, the program, the portfolio, the contract, whatever it is you're looking at. And the opportunity, the uncertain event or set of circumstances, should it be exploited, could have a positive effect on achievement of the project, program, portfolio, contract objectives. And to me, they very much align with value management as well. As I said, generally at all stages of value management, I like to put in some risk management. It's pointless if we're doing a value engineering study and we might be taking out some engineering and some bits that we think maybe are not as important as we originally thought, and actually in turn that could give us some risks. So the two to me run very much side in side, and I think there is very much a clear link between achieving value for money, what we're looking to achieve and optimize, and the threats and opportunities that are out there. If we look at the opportunities, then certainly I believe value engineering and opportunity achievement align quite well. and I think we should do some more to try and move that forward. So another little diagram here. How are they aligned or complement to enhance value in delivery? So we start off with value management and looking right at the very beginning. What is the vision? What are our objectives that we're looking to achieve? We can do these through a number of things, using value tree methodologies, value management strategy, setting that at the very high level, and then moving into clarifying what the needs and wants of the project are. The needs, those things that absolutely must be delivered in order to have success, and the wants, some of those nice to haves, and we can profile those and plot them on a function map. We can also align these very closely with our objectives and add some value indexes there. And throughout the life, we can assess in terms of value for money, not just looking at the capital investment, but what is the whole life value for money ratio. And moving forward, how can we improve that? Well, we can use value engineering to iteratively improve that value moving forward. And also the bits that's missing off here is in terms of that continual learn and review process. So feeding in lessons learned, what went well and what didn't go so well. And in terms of risk management, very much understanding the context that we're moving forward with and how that aligns with the objectives. So I think they very much align. Identifying what the threats and opportunities are, the causes, the risks and effects. And I think along with our needs and wants, we can very much align those and do. Analysing what impact it could have to the project, what cost, schedule, reputation, health and safety, whatever that might be. And that could be other ones, and looking forward into evaluating and mitigating, assess how we can respond to the causes and the impacts of those risks and opportunities, either to try and minimize those risks occurring or to maximize the opportunities occurring. And again, we're into this bottom section with risk management, the management response, the continual review, update cycle. And for me, I think those two work very, very closely together. Okay, so I think very much on time. We're spot on with 10:15. So I'm going to hand over to Donna and see if there are any additional questions that have been raised.
So thank you very much, Julie, for that. That was really good. We've got two questions, I think. The first question is, if you have already been involved in at least 2 value studies, can you then do VM1 and get the QVA, so in terms of training and accreditation? Also, can you do VM1 and 2 back-to-back to reduce the overall timescale in working towards your PVM?
Right, let me first take the first one.
Yep.
If you have already done 2 VM studies, so if you are active in value management, then we would class you as somebody who has pre-experience. But I would say yes, go and do the value management 1 course. It's a great course. It really gives you some of the fundamentals. You might think you know how to do value management, but it'll iron out some of those issues you maybe have and give you some more tools and techniques to be able to effectively drive value management forward. So yeah, I would certainly, you know, with some experience, you would gain even more benefit from doing the VM1. But if you don't have any experience, still have a look. And if you want to register on some of those value management courses, or talk to me or one of my colleagues separately. In terms of the VM1 and 2, I think if you are a pre-experienced candidate, then maybe there might be a little bit of fast tracking between the 2. But I think generally you do need the time, you need a little bit of a gap. And I'm not saying that must be 6 or 12 months, but ideally you need to go out there, take some of the learning from VM1 and then go on to the VM2 training. So I would recommend there is a little bit of a gap and there's the opportunity to actively go out there and get on, you know, some live value management studies if you can. If you are struggling, if your organisation currently doesn't do that, contact the IVM, contact myself or one of the other executive members, and we will see if we can get you some experience sitting in on another client's value study, as long as that client is happy for you to do so.
On that, Julie, if you already had some VM qualifications, has the IVM changed in terms of its new type of training qualifications, or are you able to transfer maybe qualifications you had a long time ago? Do they need to be refreshed?
I don't know without knowing what those qualifications are.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So it is difficult to answer that. I would say contact the IVM. If you clearly have some value management qualifications, then we will look at that and see whether you meet the requirements of one of those particular courses. So it might be that you already have some of the training, some of the knowledge, and we might agree that actually maybe you don't need to sit a VM. One, maybe have the competency there already, but I couldn't talk without talking on an individual basis with that individual, and it would be our certification board that would look at that.
Okay, and last question. So just to sum up the kind of presentation, which has been very, very good, and I love the Heinz baked beans and looking at value management very simplistically. But what is the benefit for risk managements being value trained? You know, what's the benefit for them?
I think it gives a great benefit, because I think it's another thing to add to your experience, and I think, you know, it's about, sometimes I find it's difficult just doing pure risk management, and sorry, sometimes understanding what drives stakeholders and what their needs are is very important. And I think some of the tools and techniques, some of them are interchangeable with risk management, but I think there's some great tools and techniques. I think some of the training is absolutely fantastic out there. I wouldn't be in this profession otherwise. And I think it gives you a bit more to be able to deliver your job maybe as a risk manager. It also gives you that opportunity if you want to widen your role and not just be a risk professional, but move into delivering value management as well, or doing a little bit of value and risk together, then it gives you that opportunity. So I would say it just helps to diversify you to be able to deal with individuals that come into your risk studies, understand what drives stakeholders, understand maybe how their needs and wants tie in, and how that could impact on the risks that you're experiencing through your risk studies.
Thank you so much, Julie. So in the essence of time, I'm just now going to hand over for everyone on the call to Bill Stirling.
Right, that's...
So Bill, you should be getting a prompt.
Have I gone?
I have.
Yes, Julie, you have gone.
Great.
You just need, yep, just need to mute. And Bill, you're up and running.
Good, thank you very much, and thank you, Julie, for that very interesting thing. I was actually interested in both the baked beans and the railway project, because I'm a bit railway mad, as it were. So I found that very interesting.
Yeah, I always find the baked bean one quite interesting, because I actually don't like baked beans, but it's good. It's a good analogy to give anyway. So right, I'll leave.
I've got no food or railways in my presentation at all. So at Cantor, so I'm Bill Stirling. I'm chair of the Scottish chapter of the Institute of Operational Risk, and Don and I are in regular contact to bring the the activities of the IRM in Scotland and the Institute of Operational Risk more closer together, and thank you for the opportunity to present to all of your group today. What I'm going to go through is then just a description of the Institute of Operational Risk, its role within the financial services community, which is primarily where it's positioned, nature of the membership, who the committee in Scotland are, what we're planning through 2021 at a high level, but also then just to highlight the resources that are available to all of us, and that's both the IRM membership and the IOR membership, which I'll describe as effectively coming together so that we share the benefits of both of the institutes. Certificate in Operational Risk Management was introduced a couple of years ago, is the qualification, is the only qualification within operational risk that is available. I'll describe how that operates and the benefits of using that. And then at the end, come on to a bit more about my experience and what are the hot topics within operational risk. I just realised the clock has gone from my screen, so I'll just take my watch off there. So, right. Operational risk is described as the risk of loss resulting from inadequate or failed internal processes, people and systems, or from external events. Now, you can unpick that definition. Loss doesn't really just mean loss of cash in terms of compensating customers, paying fines. It can be loss of reputation. It can be loss of customers over the longer term. It can be damage to assets there. So loss is a wide concept. And then when you look at the rest of the definition, processes, people and systems and external events cover pretty much everything in a non-financial risk world. Operational risk is a very broad church. It incorporates financial crime, conduct risk, cyber and information security, and those specialisms tend to have their own teams looking at them because there's regulation in for each one of those areas, and it really needs deep knowledge of a specific piece of regulation to provide businesses and provide the right challenge to management on activities so that the risks are managed appropriately. But operational risk itself then is the sort of the framework within which some of these specialists sit, but operational risk itself is the effectively the aggregator and fills in the gaps between these specialist teams and the rest of the business activities, which are comprised people, processes and systems and are influenced by external events. The IOR was founded in 2004 and, as I said, it is the only professional institute in the world focusing on the discipline of operational risk. And the aim is to develop best practice, disseminate that throughout the professional community, engage with regulators and other stakeholders to shape industry thinking. The most recent part of that, there was a response to the consultation paper from the UK regulators on operational resilience there. So and education, and I'll come on to the education programme. IOR and IRM joined forces in 2019. There was a takeover, a merger, whatever you call it, and there is a commitment to improve the research focus from within the IOR, and also then make the resources of both the IRM and the IOR available to all of the members of the body. One of the key benefits that the IOR has got is that it effectively has professionalised the infrastructure that we've got. There is a team within the IRM which is available to us to help run webinars and manage the membership base. In due course, we're expecting the website to be updated because I think the IOR website looks fairly dated compared to the IRM offering, and that's one of the things that we're pressing to get addressed over the next 12 months, hopefully. And then, just in the same way as the IOR the IRM are organised, we have regional interest groups. We happen to call them chapters. Those chapters are spread across. There's 6 chapters spread across the world. We've got Scotland, England and Wales, Germany and the Netherlands, Nordic countries, Singapore and Hong Kong. And you'll find links to those chapters within the IRM website. The special interest group within the IRM for operational risk is effectively the Institute of Operational Risk. And again, there's a little bit of work to be done, I think, just to clarify that within the website. But the special interest group effectively becomes the committee of the Institute of Operational Risk, and it's the channel in which we will all of the chapters come together, and we will then engage with the regulators, engage with stakeholders. But like most of the IRM and Donna and the team, it's run by members on a voluntary basis. So this is all side of the desk stuff, but hopefully professional nonetheless. We have about 750 members worldwide, remarkably, and I was quite astonished by this, spread across 73 countries. But about 460 of those members are within the UK, which was the original core base of that. There isn't really a split of membership between Scotland and England and Wales. The chapters are arranged in this way so that we can focus on our local firms, and I'll come on to the financial services community in Scotland in a minute. But really the role of the Scottish chapter, yes, it's engage with local members and engage with local firms, but really we don't care which chapter somebody is aligned to. And at our most recent worldwide chapter heads meeting, there was agreement from all of the chapters that actually we should do more to share all of our content, all of our webinars across all of the different chapters. And also through the IRM Special Interest Group in Operational Risk, we'll then start to promote all of those events to anybody that's signed up to Operational Risk as part of their Special Interest Group. So we're really trying to break down some of the possibly historical barriers that were there on a geographic basis and make it much more of an international approach to that. I have a slide later to describe the membership levels. Both the IRM and the IOR have got different designations. I think they're called nominals within there, but different designations, and depending on whether you start at the certificate of for operational risk or the certificate for risk management, drives which channel you go through. Many of the IOR members work in financial services, and in the middle section of the slide you can see the scale of the financial services community in Scotland. I'm not going to rehearse all of those numbers, but I think reflecting even over the past 10 years, the IOR has membership and certainly the composition of the committee has evolved from predominantly banking and a bit of insurance into a broader group of financial services businesses. There's been a significant move to outsourcing, both from the banking, but mainly from the insurance and asset management sectors. And we have got significant businesses based in Scotland, which are supporting many of the key, customer-facing or brands that you will see in the market. Within the committee, you've got there Derek from FNZ and Caroline and Christoph from Atos. And FNZ, probably most of you may not have heard of them, but they provide significant outsource and IT services to wealth and asset management businesses. And Atos, this is public knowledge, so Atos have got the outsourced business process outsource, is what BPO stands for, the outsource contracts for Aegon's back office and National Savings as well. So there's a broad spread, and the composition of the committee is evolving as the financial services market evolves. So I just wanted to highlight here the resources that are available to all of us, whether that's an Institute of Risk Management member or an IOR member. The sound practice guides, I think, are an excellent resource for anybody to dip into. I wouldn't recommend starting with them. I would, if you're going to start out in operational risk, start with the certificate, do the qualification, get a bit of experience, and then move into using the sound practice guides to help, shape best practice within your organisation. Just make sure that you use them as reference guides to, almost validate the approach within your business, within your team, whatever area that you're looking at. Professor Simon Ashby of University of Plymouth is a well-known figure within the operational risk world and has been pivotal in effectively refreshing these guides. All of them have been refreshed, and the presentation of them improved significantly over the past 12 months. And we now have guides covering risk appetite, key risk indicators, risk and control self-assessments, operational risk governance, embedding of operational risk categorization, risk culture, and scenario analysis. I think there's something for everybody within these guides. They are all available on the IOR website, and forgive me, I haven't worked. I think you just need to register as a member. If you're using the IRM membership, I think you will get access to the IOR website and the sound practice guides there. So those are a key resource for all of us. One of the benefits of the merger is that now for IOR members, we're getting the enterprise risk publication, which comes through every quarter, and I get a number of these from different places, and I have to say the enterprise risk publication is one of the best and most interesting that I get. It's well presented, nice and straightforward, and hits the mark. So that's been one of the major positives that come from the merger going forward. But the principle is that whether you're IOR or IRM, you should have access to all of the IRM or IOR resources and events and webinars. You just need to make sure that you're registered to the right special interest groups and look out for things coming into your inbox by email, or LinkedIn is a key tool for promoting the webinars. Over the past 12 months, there have been a number of webinars run primarily by the England and Wales team. I think they got onto the digital channel faster than the rest of us. I think there were other distractions within the industry in terms of COVID that distracted the delivery in certain places, but you'll find recordings or in the members section of the website, recordings of the 9 webinars that England and Wales ran last year on a multitude of topics over there. And I know we've got one webinar in planning from the Scottish chapter, hopefully to be run in February, and England and Wales are planning one for March. So we can see that cycle starting again. And again, those are open to all. Like this one, they will be recorded and made available to members after the fact. And again, just the point, these will be available to our members on a worldwide basis. There. So I mentioned there were 2 journeys, and this is a bit of an ugly slide, and I don't expect you to read it, but you can see, hopefully, in the top swim lane, we've got an IOR channel starting student, certificate, onto professional member, and in a similar form, but not exactly the same, Institute of Risk Management certificate, and moving on to a certified member in that way. So it really, I think, depends which channel you choose and which qualification you would choose to do, will then influence, you know, the levels of membership that you would go to. And I think need to be driven by, you know, the what you're interested in learning about, and where is the sort of the core of your focus. I would say this, but operational risk is very focused on, you know, broadly focused on financial services, but the principles of operational risk management are very applicable across all of the industries that all of you will work in, and Julie was touching on them in our value management approach as well. So it is risk management, but it just happens to be a specialism that is there. The certificate is the only qualification that's available specifically in operational risk. It was developed, I think, 2.5 years ago. It is now proving actually very popular. I think I heard there was about 200 students enrolled in it in the last year. And those students, you know, as part of the benefits, will get an Institute of Op Risk associate membership, and then hopefully they will progress on to, you know, staying with the institute through their professional life and going through the channels. One of the other developments that has come to light is that some of the Asian regulators, I think it was the Singapore regulator, is now mandating that professionals operating in an operational risk role have got, you know, a qualification to evidence, you know, a basic level of professionalism. And that may then start to leak out into other regulatory bodies focusing on you know, the right qualifications for people to do certified roles in there. So we'll see if that develops in Europe. I personally don't think it is essential. I think good risk managers come from a blend of you know, learning on the job, some business experience of you know, how the business operates, but you know, by doing self-study and research and engaging with other professionals, you get a very rounded approach. But you know, if you're starting in operational risk management, the certificate itself, I think, is an excellent way to start, and covers a multitude of topics. You can see the study topics on the right-hand side of the slide in terms of there. Many businesses end up actually supporting their staff members by paying for the study, because they will benefit from you know, the increasing professionalism and the education of the staff, and it can be put into development plans. It is, I have to say, I'll go into it, I'm laughing at myself here going, it's RQF level 4 and EQF level 5. Back in my day, we had O grades and higher, and we didn't have levels of anything. But it's got all the right accreditation, so I'm told. It's a workbook based, and there's an example of the workbook and slivers of it available to look at for prospective students. You can see that on the website. It is all online, multiple choice questions, you know, 130, 150 hours of study. If you break that down into, you know, 50 odd weeks a year, it isn't a huge commitment, and it can either be done relatively quickly or a long burn. Very flexible for students. Benefits, I think I've touched on many of them. Individuals learn about operational risk concepts. Isn't the same as applying them, but you learn about the concepts. There are examples of significant operational risk failures embedded within the training, so it's not purely theoretical. It does demonstrate commitment and evidence of professional knowledge, and it's very pleasing. Excuse me, very pleasing that regulators are picking up on the on the benefits of the certificate. And for firms, as I say, it supports the development of their teams. It covers, whether you're in I don't know if these concepts are widely used across, but line one operational risk teams would typically be the business management themselves, sometimes supported by a risk and control specialist with at the elbow, but line one is in the business. Line two is effectively an oversight team that will put in place operational risk frameworks, ensure that the framework is understood and embedded and is operating effectively, and also then provides, independent challenge to management on their risk management approach and the decisions that are being taken, and can help shape the business decisions. So, a bit more about, excuse me, a bit more about me and my background. How did I get into operational risk? Well, it's been a long journey. I started many moons ago in what was Bank of Scotland HBOS, corporate banking, supporting businesses, management buyouts of businesses, business being bought and sold. And when it was about 2008, just at the time of the global financial crisis, I moved into a risk management role. It was a joint credit risk and operational risk role, and then developed into just purely focusing on operational risk. HBOS at that point was taken over by Lloyds Bank because we'd run out of money. And in that journey, I decided that I wanted to do something different, and something different from corporate banking was retail banking, so personal banking. And the most interesting thing going on at the time was the build of TSB. So as part of the sort of penalties for the sort of Lloyds HBOS takeover that were imposed by the competition authorities, they had to carve out TSB into a separate business. So that was one of the most interesting things. I was head of operational risk for the build program of TSB, so took that through the build, all of the customer migrations, and those were the ones done in the background to get TSB up and running, and then through the flotation of TSB. And in 2015, I ended up leaving and decided I wanted to be a contractor. I like variety. I like seeing different things over a frequent period. I get quite bored if I'm doing something for 2 years without any change, and the life of a contractor suits me. So I've done stints at Coventry Building Society, Prudential, and M&G. And now with a business called Refinitiv, which not many of you will have heard of, but it's the financial products, the data that is used in the asset management and stock market. It's the data provider for all of that. It was spun out of Thomson Reuters about 2 years ago, and in the next week and a bit will be taken over by the London Stock Exchange Group. So that's another dynamic and interesting area. Whilst I've been focusing on operational risk since 2008, within all of that, there has been a constant drumbeat of looking at things like business continuity and IT. And in my current role and my previous role at M&G, I was specifically looking at operational resilience. And operational resilience, you can see, is one of the hot topics within here. So currently focusing on operational resilience, but at its heart is that is an outcome of good operational risk management, and we're focusing on that. I've seen my share of crises, I've seen my share of incidents. I've thoroughly enjoy the variety that comes with operational risk. I think one of the benefits of operational risk, it's being an operational risk manager, is that I tend not to get lost too deeply in one specialism. I fully respect financial crime specialists and conduct specialists who can quote every part of the regulation, but I like operational risk management because you get the broader picture. You can actually look at all of those risks plus people risks, behavioural risks, and so forth, and bring those together, synthesize them into a sort of view, the aggregate view of risk for that a business is facing or a project is facing, rather than a sort of fairly narrow but deep view within that. So that's what excites me about operational risk. So current topics within here, and I won't drain the slide, so I'll leave a few minutes if there aren't any questions. You can see here, operational resilience. Most firms are progressing operational resilience programs, and this is just off the back of large failures, such as the RBS issue in 2012 and TSB's issue in, I think it was 2017, 2018, can't remember which now. The regulator is making sure that that management are focused on, stopping bad things happening before they happen, not just recovering from them. So, but taking a sort of whole of business view of resilience. So it isn't just about IT, it isn't just about business continuity solutions. It's looking all the way through the how key processes are supported by suppliers. Which then goes to, there you go, we've got risks of suppliers. And as I said earlier, outsourcing has been a key trend in the past decade, and the regulators and regulation insist that management have as much control over the activities of the outsourcer as they would have over the operation as if it was in their own business, and getting that wrong can be fairly catastrophic. I think if you look at the reports on the TSB migration, one of the key issues was that management there weren't on top of the it was inside the group, weren't on top of the IT supplier, which was actually inside the Sabadell group. So having stronger control over those operations is very important, and then as a result, I think I've just read that TSB have brought that control over their IT operations back in-house in there. So supplier risks themselves, one of the evolving points is that through things like outsourcing and cloud, we're finding that there is industry concentration. I think in the asset management world, there are two key providers of outsourced service, and if one of those has a service interruption, that has a significant impact on multiple asset management businesses. So what do the asset managers do to mitigate the sector concentration risk? We've seen it in other industries, but if you had a catastrophic failure of a business in the way that Carillion went down, how would that work if it was one of the key suppliers to asset management businesses or banking businesses? So that's a topic that is taking a fair bit of management time and energy. I mentioned cloud. If you move into the sort of cyber technology and digital, the move to cloud has been going on over a number of years. There are great benefits in hosting applications and data centers in the cloud, but again, you come back to concentration. who are the two key suppliers? Well, you've got Amazon and you've got Microsoft Azure. And you may find that whilst you've mitigated your cloud risk, if one of your suppliers hasn't fully mitigated their cloud risks or controlled their cloud risks, if there is an issue with the cloud provider, it has an impact on your business. So it comes back into operational resilience within there. And then culture and the pace of change really is another factor. And I think the sort of, we've got multiple drivers around. You can see we've had the experience of COVID that has I think accelerated business change significantly over a short period. We've got climate change that is creating issues for, you know, whether that's in the underlying businesses and the assets, and then that creates operational risk challenges, or you know, simply ends up with you know, more weather events that impact on, you know, data centers and operations if they're global operations, and the economy will start to change. So as we come out of the COVID crisis, we will have a different economy, and that will have a downstream effect on all of our businesses that you know, will end up having a round of cost cutting. Cost cutting tends to mean business change, process change, and in those changes, you know, whether that's a technology change or a, you know, people change or a business process change, there are regularly gaps, and it's trying to mitigate those sort of failures of handovers, failures of gaps, failures to test robustly before those change programs are going in. Those are the kinds of things that operational risk is focused on delivering. So anyway, I won't go any further, but those are the sort of hot topics. I think I've tried to show in the Venn diagram that actually they're all interlinked, and you can't just deal with one of them discreetly there. So anyway, that was it. Hopefully you found that interesting. Donna, do we have any questions? You're on mute, Donna.
Sorry, at least you could see my mouth was moving. We just had a I don't know what's happened to my screen, but we have a question for Julie, and we have thanks, Bill. So I think it was just no questions as such, but thanks very much for the presentation. I think it was really good to hear, and I think the people on the line and the call will really appreciate the fact that you've shared what, you know, the role of the IOR, a little bit more about, you know, the certifications, and the fact that there is a lot of resources and information that IOR and IRM as merging now have access to. I think it just helps, especially at the moment when we know that people may be in a virtual sense and looking at training and reading up. It's a really good time to understand all that. Julie, there is a question here. I think we've got time for it, if you don't mind. In terms of the question is, does the IVM have membership grades in addition to qualifications?
It does indeed. It does indeed. I don't have all those grades available at my fingertips, but if you go on to the Institute of Value Management website, those grades are on there. We would be delighted to welcome some more members. One of the things I did forget to say right at the beginning was the IVM is a voluntary organisation. It is run by individuals such as myself that are passionate in value management. So, you know, if you want to become a member, if you want to get more involved, please contact us. We would be happy to talk to you. And if you're struggling to find the detail on where the membership grades are, drop me an email. You've got my 2 email addresses, and I will guide you in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Julie. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of all of us on the call today, that I thoroughly enjoyed both speakers. I'm sure that everyone else did and are now more aware in terms of the other areas that kind of reference and help and complement our continual journey in learning about risk management. This is the last kind of event that we have in terms of collaborating and knowledge. The presentations, as I said at the beginning, will be recorded and will be on the IRM webpage for anyone that has missed it or would like to review anything. There hasn't been any questions that we've not been able to answer in the time allocated. Therefore, there won't be that going up on the IRM webpage. But I think just in general, hopefully over the last 4 virtual webinars that you have found that there is much benefit in terms of resources, certifications, etc., available to you through the IRM. On a side note, hopefully you all seen the Xmas Scottish Rig newsletter, and thank you to the committee members who are on today for assisting in that, and we hope that you enjoyed that read and sharing of knowledge. I think that it is fair to say that the committee would really recommend feedback through the IRM you can email me through the IRM webpage in terms of how you're feeling about the events. If there's anything in particular you would like us to maybe try and organise for you, we would really like your help. It's always better to understand, as Julie picked up today in VM, the stakeholders and what you may be looking for, and an area that potentially that myself and the committee members are just not looking at the moment, which would benefit you. So please feel free to send us that feedback. It is very much welcomed and is a gift for us. You can stay connected, as I said, just through the IRM Scottish Regional Group on LinkedIn. We're seeing a lot more people going on to there, and we would hope that during 2021 we can get more resources on there. And lastly, we are looking at changing from the newsletter from March to June. We have we're hoping that we can get the a session on climate change, which will be facilitated by Adaptation Scotland, a very interactive type of session with people. And it's about, the focus is not about preventing climate change. There was a little article about them in the newsletter, but it's more about how can we manage and forecast and be resilient due to the fact we're already in some respects going through the impacts of climate change at the moment. And we also are in talks with UNICEF to see if we can get a presentation from a party in UNICEF as well. So please keep an eye on the IRM webpage, and as I say, if there is anything else, please feel free to send your feedback. We welcome it. I'm going to close off unless there's any questions. I'll have a quick check if there are any questions come through from anyone. Oh, yes, so I should have said the recordings will be going on the IVM website as well as the IOR website too. So if you want to and you're having a look, you will see them going on there too, so you will be able to see the cross-reference of this. Other than that, thank you for attending today, and I will look forward to seeing you in June for the next event. Thank you, and thank you to the guest speakers.
Thanks, Donna.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.